Hello friends, I am Joy KahNah and welcome to Neptune in the 10th house. Alright, so if you have Neptune in the 10th house, this could mean that you have a big dream about professional success. Maybe you have this dream of being the best in your career and rising to the top and ultimately becoming an incredible authority figure in your craft. Maybe you dream of having this amazing reputation in your chosen community and being able to wield power and being able to have influence and control. And yes, maybe this is all part of your Neptune dream. When Neptune falls in the 10th house, it can, in one sense, cast a very magical energy around our career and our destiny, especially if our destiny is in a Neptune-like field, in an artistic or creative or spiritual field. On the other hand though, Neptune placed in the 10th house can give us a false sense of what it takes to succeed in this world. So I thought what would be fun today would be to look at the highest aspects of Neptune in the 10th house and to also look at the flip side to those aspects and how Neptune could manifest if we are not properly harmonizing the energies within us. First, let's talk about success. The highest aspect of Neptune in the 10th house, it can give us a dream. It can give us a dream of being very, very successful in our chosen field. And if we work to cultivate that Neptune energy within us, if we work to cultivate our own intuition, we could actually experience some of the magical, miraculous qualities that Neptune can offer, manifesting in our career, and we could find ourselves actually making our career dreams come true. In order to make those dreams come true, we would probably need to work very, very hard and be very, very disciplined, and yet the capacity to manifest our dreams really is there, particularly if we partner with the divine and we learn to work with manifestation energies and we become spiritually whole and we bring that to our career, then yes, it could bring somebody who is able to make their career dreams come true. On the flip side, Neptune's dreamy quality could bring somebody who has a dream of being very successful, but who is very out of touch with reality about what it takes to succeed. This could be someone who believes that dreams just come true and who expects to just have some mystical power just catapult them into the spotlight, and somebody who maybe doesn't want to look at the fact that success usually comes from working very, very hard for a very long time, working harder than anyone else and being more responsible than anyone else and investing enormously in our personal development, right? Success usually comes that way, and success usually comes after a lot of failures and after a lot of time. So if you have Neptune in the 10th house, you could have that tendency to really believe that your career dreams are going to come true really quickly. And one thing that I've learned is that most people don't find great success when they're young. Somebody with Neptune in the 10th house could feel like they are going to really succeed by the time that they're age 25 or that time that they're age 30 or even 35 and be like, yeah, I'll just follow this path, I'll just, work hard and then I'll succeed. And realistically, a lot of people who reach big success in their careers and who have a reputation for prominence, a lot of times it comes later on. A lot of times it comes around this sort of second Saturn return time, around somebody's late 50s, not always, but with Neptune placed in the 10th house, we have to be mindful of not only what our dream is for our career, but also about what it's going to take to get there. In the highest aspect, Neptune in the 10th house could create a prominent artist or prominent writer. It could make somebody who's very successful in some sort of creative endeavor or creative field. On the other side, Neptune in the 10th house could produce somebody who's totally disillusioned when they are in a business or corporate setting. It might be somebody who finds themselves working for a Fortune 500 company or something like that that's very, very structured in terms of what it takes to rise to the top, and they could find themselves kind of at one of the lower rungs on the ladder and just feeling like this is pointless, like I'm never gonna get there, I'm never ever gonna get to the top, what am I even doing? And they could start to develop a resentment for not being recognized in the way that they had hoped and dreamed of. The 10th house also has to do with our sense of purpose. In the highest sense, Neptune being in the 10th house could mean that we find our purpose spiritually. Now, for some people, that could be that they find their purpose in spirituality. Maybe they actually want to end up becoming a psychic, for example, or they want to become a musician, or somehow that spiritual creative energy becomes their purpose. But it doesn't have to manifest that way. This could also be somebody who finds their purpose through spiritual means, and I highly recommend that everybody look into the sign and house of their north node, because that is one of the best ways to spiritually discern what your purpose is. But this could be somebody who finds a sense of purpose and who discovers their purpose spiritually. Maybe they're given their purpose in a dream, for example. That'd be very, very Neptunian. Or maybe they study astrology, or they study the Kabbalah, or they use the tarot, or something like that, and it brings them their purpose. They find that they consistently get spiritual signs that lead them to their purpose and that lead them to their career and their destiny, and they just feel so spiritually driven to leave a certain legacy in the world. The flip side of this can be somebody who is totally confused about what their purpose is. They just have no idea what their purpose is, and it's just so foggy, and sometimes maybe they think it's one thing, but they don't know, and they're very non-committal, and they just don't understand why they are here, and they just don't get it. They just don't understand at all the purpose of their career or how to feel connected to it at all. Okay, so if you have Neptune in the 10th house and you're feeling like that, again, I highly, highly recommend that you look into at least the sign of your north node to give you a sense of what direction that you came here to achieve in this lifetime, and if possible, look at the sign and house of your north node to understand what your purpose is. Other good indications of purpose in astrology include looking at your midheaven placement to find where you'll shine in the world. Also looking into any planets in your second house, or just the sign that's ruling your second house to find out in which arena that you may be able to make the most money. 10th house also has to do with our reputation. So in the highest sense, Neptune placed in the 10th house could give us a reputation of being very, very creative. You know, we could have that reputation in our community, in our workplace of, oh my goodness, you know, that person over there is so creatively gifted, and not only that, but they're very sensitive and they're very intuitive, and you know, he or she, they just have such a dreamy quality, you know, such beautiful eyes, and all of Neptune's characteristics, they could come to define you in a very, very positive way. That's the high aspect of Neptune in the 10th house as it relates to reputation. The other side of this could be somebody who has a poor reputation or just a confusing reputation. This could produce a situation where there's a lot of rumors about you that affect your reputation, or this could give you a reputation of some of the negative aspects of Neptune. It could just mean that your reputation is very, very foggy. So for example, maybe you have a name that's really common, and maybe somebody else with your same name was like a murderer or something like that. And maybe when people go to research you for jobs, they always find that other person with the same name who was a murderer, and maybe it creates a lot of confusion that impacts your career, okay? That could be one way that it manifests. But this could also be that you have a reputation for acting like a victim. Maybe in the workplace, you're always feeling like everything's against you, or you act that way, and that starts to become a part of your reputation to the point where nobody really wants to work with you, and you have difficulty getting ahead. Or maybe you once went to an office party, and it was a holiday party, and maybe you drank too much, and maybe you have that reputation now in your workplace of being somebody who drinks too much or has an alcohol problem, and maybe it affects your reputation. It could go either way, but with Neptune placed in the 10th house, just know that you may not necessarily be seeing your reputation clearly. So you may actually want to ask others, how am I really perceived here in this office? Or how am I perceived at work? You could have a reputation that's much, much more positive than what you actually realize. It's not necessarily going to be negative, but there's just an indication with Neptune in the 10th house that you may not actually know how you're appearing, especially when it comes to your professionalism. So also with Neptune in the 10th house, I recommend, Googling yourself, knowing what your public image is. Even though that can be a little scary sometimes, it's really important to have a clear sense of how you are appearing in the professional arena. And finally, the 10th house is about authority and authority figures. In the highest sense, Neptune in the 10th house could produce somebody who's a very, very inspiring authority figure themselves. Somebody who's able to gather people around some sort of dream or some sort of vision, and who's able to work hard to make that dream a reality. You know what I think of when I think of Neptune in the 10th house, or a Neptune in the 10th house sort of authority figure, is I think of kind of Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, somebody who comes in with this big dream and vision of how they want the world to be, who is not disillusioned about what it's going to take to get there. Bernie Sanders, he has a strong hold on tradition. He knows, he's been part of the political system for a long time. He knows how the system works, and yet he's taking his dream and he's trying to put it into the system and saying, here's what it's going to take in this system to get to this dream. I think that's a really high aspect of Neptune in the 10th house. Not that he has that placement, but what I will say is that a lot of the people who voted for him do have that placement. The Neptune in Capricorn generation really stood up and said, yes, Bernie Sanders, this is what we want. We want somebody who's an authority figure, somebody who has all those Capricorn qualities, but we want somebody who's going to bring a higher dream for society, who's dreaming beyond what's presently possible. He's a good example for a Neptune and Capricorn person. The flip side of this could bring somebody who is totally deceived by authority. Now, I don't want to say any particular names of political figures who may really be not what they seem, okay? Who might have tried to trick some people into believing in them. But, with Neptune and Capricorn, you could get tricked by people in power. You know what? Just because somebody's in power doesn't mean that they are truly deserving of power, or that they really are the most qualified, or that they have the most ethos or deserve the most respect. So we have to question our relationship with authority. We may want to visualize the highest relationship to authority, or visualize what an ideal authority figure would look like, but we need to do this without losing touch with reality and the traditional systems upon which authority is built in our personal career or our personal professional arena. And I hope you all have enjoyed this video about Neptune in the 10th house. If you have, please feel free to come back here to the Maya's Dream channel any Tuesday or Friday for more new videos. Thank you again, and namaste.